Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we're going to be talking about resumes, cover letters, and the resources that the UCLA Career Center has to help yours to make it the best that it can be. We're joined by two Career Center interns, Jackie and Omar, who's going to be showing us some tips and tricks. I'm now going to turn it over to them to introduce themselves and talk about resumes and cover letters. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop it into the chat and we will do our best to answer as many as possible.
Hello, so I'll start off by introducing myself. My name is Jackie. My pronouns are she and hers, and I'm currently a graduate student here at UCLA, and I'm studying student affairs along with Omar. And as an undergraduate, I was also a transfer student. So I was at Orange Coast College. Then I graduated and I transferred to UC Irvine, where I studied public health policy. And then after that, I was working at the UCI School of Medicine for 3 years, and then I decided I wanted to go back to school, and now I'm here back at UCLA, or here at UCLA. And funny thing, when I was a transfer student, I never visited the Career Center. I didn't really know too much about the Career Center, but now that I'm actually an intern at the Career Center and I see all the resources that we have, I wish I actually would have gone to the Career Center because I could have taken advantage of the resources. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I will pass it over to Omar.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Jackie. So I'm a non-traditional transfer student. I started at CSUN in 2010 when I graduated high school, stopped out, did some other things in life, found my way back to higher education. So I graduated from LA Pierce College in 2018, graduated from UCLA in 2020 in Chicano and Central American Studies and a minor in history. And now, like Jackie said, I'm in the Master's of Education and Student Affairs, and I will be starting my PhD in education fall 2021. So please, as we're going on, if you have any questions, everybody here joining us on Zoom, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the link in the chat. We have some really great material to go over today, but we really want to make this relevant to anyone that has taken the time to tune in or taken the time to be here with us today. We really appreciate you and we're really excited about sharing this, but we really want to make sure that it's relevant to you and to your needs. And similar to Jackie, I didn't show up to the Career Center as an undergrad until maybe 20 days before I had my master's application due. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I need help with, I have a resume, a personal statement, a statement of purpose, and all these different things. And what does all this mean? And what do I do? We just want to say it's okay. And hopefully we can offer a little bit of guidance, but more than that, we want to demystify this process and really invite you to come and see us at the Career Center. We have some really great career educators that are so willing and excited to help out students, especially transfer students, to really translate your experience and transform it so that it's prepared for the next steps in your professional life, whatever that may be, educational, professional, personal. And we're really excited to help and we're really excited to jump in today. With that being said, anybody here so far have any questions that they want to ask about resumes before I just jump in with the information with the presentation that we have? Give a couple of seconds. Anybody can drop it in the chat. But if not, Jackie and Christy are here, are looking at the chat. So please feel free to interrupt me at any time that I'm kind of going off the side, which I tend to do because I love to talk. All right, so we're going to get started. One of the biggest things at the Career Center, one of the scariest things I would say for me was, where do I start? Like I know I need a resume. I know kind of I need a cover letter for my job, or they're asking for this. I'm applying to an internship. I'm applying to a research position, and they're asking for a CV. So where do I start? So I would definitely recommend starting at the Career Center website. Let me make sure I pull up the right one. Okay, Jackie, just check in. You can see the Career Center website, right? Okay, good. All right, so really easy coming to the Career Center website. There's a couple of different resources that I wanted to talk about really quick with help. So we're going to talk about a lot of resources, and it's going to be a little overwhelming. I know I was certainly overwhelmed when I started going through these resources and learning about them. So please, the number one thing I want you to take away is going up here to undergraduate, going to explore virtual services, and coming down to virtual drop-in sessions. So these virtual drop-in sessions are Tuesday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we are available to help with resume, cover letter reviews, ask questions about job internship strategies, or interview preparation tips. These are normally 15 minutes, and we recommend that anybody drop by anytime. I've had students that come in at 10 a.m. They go back, work on a draft of their resume, or kind of work on doing some research, and then come back before 2 p.m. To get some additional help. Since we are open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, there's plenty of opportunities to come see us and build relationships, and then we can follow up. I definitely enjoy following up with students after we meet in 15-minute drop-in sessions and be able to continue helping them through their journey as they continue preparing their materials for application. So if you take nothing else away today, come see us during virtual drop-in sessions available to you at any time. I think one of the silver linings of being able to of being online and Zoom is that you can come see us, and we have this availability from anywhere that you are. You don't have to worry about coming to see us at the Career Center on campus. You just click this link, and this link will actually drop you straight into the Zoom link to see it in drop-in hours, where somebody will get you checked in, and you'll be able to see a career education team member. And what's really great is that there's usually career peers, which are undergraduate students that are trained, graduate interns like Jackie or myself, or career education teams, and we all work together and rely on each other to be able to support our students. So if we don't have any questions, we will ask, and we'll make sure that you get the information, or we will always bring each other in depending on who has the expertise, who can kind of help a little bit better. We want to make sure that our students take the best. So please, if you take nothing else away, come see us during drop-in hours. If there's anything that I talk about or that Jackie talks about, you're like, oh, they said something about something, and I don't have the time to go through the Facebook live video or whatever it is, come see us during virtual drop-in hours and be like, Omar mentioned something about VMOC or something about internship search strategies, and we will more than gladly help you out.
Okay. And there is a question in the chat.
Oh, yes.
There is a question in the chat that says, how often do these appointments get released? And I will say for drop-ins, these aren't appointments. Basically, just show up anytime between 10 to 2 p.m. on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and there'll be somebody there to help you out.
Yes, the virtual career advising every Friday, the appointments, every Friday appointments go out for 2 weeks in advance. However, drop-in sessions are awesome because you can drop in anytime, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Yes, thank you, Jackie.
Hi, Omar. We also have another question. An attendee asked, I've seen some postings asking for references. Who would be a good reference to ask? Would it be appropriate to ask a professor as a reference, or would it be better to ask a club member, etc.?
That's a really great question, and it depends. It always depends on the type of position that you're applying to. If you're applying to a research position, depending on kind of the experience that you have and the relationships that you have with previous supervisors, with professors, being able to ask who you feel comfortable with. And that's also a part of networking. As you're kind of going through the different research positions, as you're going through different classes, being able to continue to stay in contact with faculty, because it's also important to stay in contact with faculty, especially as you're thinking about applying to graduate school, to research positions where they require letters or recommendations, or anything that might require that recommendation from a faculty member. So being able to rely on them to provide that reference. But always, I would always recommend looking at the job description and kind of seeing, they'll usually say, hey, we want some references. Like, think about a reference from a previous supervisor, or it depends on the situation. Yes, it does. So looking at the job description, and sometimes the opportunity to be like, hey, I noticed you're asking for 3 references. Is there a reference that you recommend? Like, I have supervisors, I have organizations that I work for, I have faculty. Who do you recommend that I put in there? And always asking those questions to best be able to leverage your experience and your relationships. So yes, it depends on the situation. And unfortunately, a lot of the what we're going to talk about today is always it depends. We had some really great questions that we were able to get before the presentation, and it ultimately depends. One thing about a resume, CV, or a cover letter is to remember that these are living documents. These are living application materials that we definitely always recommend that you continue to work on, to edit, to get colleagues, classmates, faculty, supervisors, career center counselors, whoever it is that you're able to ask to be able to look at them, give you feedback, and continue editing them, and also to be able to tailor them to the job description, internship description, or research description that you're looking for. Okay. Any other questions before I go into the resume portion?
No, there's currently none in the chat right now.
Okay, perfect. Again, anytime, please stop me. Okay, I'm gonna do a new share. And Jackie, please let me know if you are looking at the correct screen. Are you looking at my split screen?
Yes, but I'm waiting for it to load.
Okay, I'm gonna stop share and I'm gonna redo it. That should help. Okay, how about now? Still loading?
It's still loading.
Okay. Let's try this one more time. And of course, as we were testing this out yesterday, it was working perfectly fine. And it is not working today. Actually, earlier today. Okay, I think I got it this time. Give me a second. It's not giving me the option to share my entire desktop. That's Zoom Live for you. Yes, Sarah, that is Zoom Live. Okay, so I'm gonna jump into the VMOC. Okay, can you see VMOC, Jackie?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, so I'm going to show this really great resume tool that we have available through the Career Center, and you access it through our through the Career Center website. So VMOC is a really great place for two reasons. One, to be able to create a brand new resume, or two, to upload a resume that you currently have that you want to get artificial intelligence feedback on. And this is a really great tool where I've actually used it to kind of redo my entire resume. Because it really focuses on formatting, making sure that you have your 1-inch margins, that all the text boxes, everything is well aligned, all the dates are well aligned, and it really keeps it consistent with font and everything across the board. And
Hi, Omar.
when
I have
you
a
upload,
question.
yes.
Emily asked, is there a type of format that should be followed for resumes? Because I've always been told that everything should fit in one page. So would it be better to edit to look appealing for each application you apply to? I've also heard that a resume should always be edited for each job you apply to. Would that be kind of true?
Really great questions, Emily. So I'm looking at the questions right now, so I'm going to try to break it down. So first question, is there a type of format that should be followed? I'm definitely guessing that question, I'm actually going to show this. I'm going to show kind of what's great about creating a new resume on VMOC. So VMOC will allow you two different things. So there's different templates that VMOC will kind of give you, but it keeps a consistent font and formatting across the entire document, depending, no matter how many pages you put on there. So it will keep the consistent formatting. Remember, a resume, it depends on the position that you're applying to. If you're applying to kind of a creative marketing position, you definitely want to take advantage of some of your creative skills and be able to do that. If you're applying to a position in HR, in possibly student affairs, kind of being able to get feedback from people that work in those different positions to take a look at the resumes and get some feedback is going to be so important, because you can kind of get a feel for what kind of the field is that you're looking for. Definitely for a CV, being very academic in nature, you want to make sure that you're having either coming to the Career Center or having PhD students or faculty review your resume to make sure that it fits a standard, and being able to look to using LinkedIn or using different websites that you can download someone's CV or resume and be able to see kind of like how does this person's resume look like. Everything should fit on one page. So that's the next thing I'm gonna talk about. So depending on on how much experience you have, rule of thumb, if you have 10 years or less of experience, keeping everything on one page is recommended. Once you have about that 10-year mark and more, definitely can go over to 2 pages. And again, it also depends on the type of position that you're applying to or kind of where you are applying to. They may ask for more than 2 pages. They may ask for everything, or they may ask, hey, we need 1 page. And the reason this is really important is because recruiters will take anywhere between 6 to 10 seconds to look at your resume the first time around. So you definitely want to maximize what they are able to see. And if you have 2 pages, they may not get to the second page, and maybe you have some work experience or relevant leadership experience that you really wanted them to see on the second page at the bottom. And we want to make sure that that's up on top on the first page, and we want to take advantage of space as well as we can take, as well as we can when you're submitting it. Also taking into account that depending on where you apply to, different companies, organizations may use applicant tracking software or systems where these algorithms will look for certain keywords, and that's kind of goes to your the last question of, I've also heard that resume should always be edited for each job you apply to. That would be true. So taking the job description and kind of making sure that your resume reflects it, because the difference between organized synonyms, like the difference between the word organized or maintained a schedule, those two can be interchangeable. But if they're looking for organized, you want to make sure that you put organized, and that will also make a big difference for applicant tracking systems software. That if it's looking for the word organized and you don't have it in there, it may push your resume out and be like, hey, this person doesn't have any organizational skills, when in reality, possibly every position that you apply to, you have in there a bullet point that has to do with organization, and we want to make sure that we maximize that. And does experience have to be organized in chronological order? Yes and no. So, and a good thing that we have VMOC up right now, because as we're looking at work, if we can put this, just putting in work experience here. So this can be experience, and possibly this is projects. So if I'm, or internship experience, if I'm applying to an internship experience where this section right here will be more relevant to the position, I can move this up to the top and put it on top of my work experience. Because let's say my work experience is as a food service worker, which I actually did do at UCLA, and I'm applying to a position where I've worked on academic projects that have to do more with community organizing, then I can put the projects up. Now, within the different sections, we want to make sure that we do keep it in reverse chronological order. So the most recent, that's right, reverse chronological or chronological? No, reverse chronological, I was right. So you want to make sure that your most recent experience is up at top and then it goes down. But within those sections, you can really, oh yeah, that is a really cool section that all you have to do is just hit the little button and it moves an entire section up or down, talking about education as well. You can just move it up or down instead of copy and pasting everything over. And again, it keeps everything nice and formatted so that as you're moving these pieces around, it won't throw off the entire format, which I am not a Microsoft Word genius. So every time I move a text box or an image, everything gets moved around. But back to the question. So yes, reverse chronological order within the different sections, and you can really name the sections whatever you want. So if we click here, we can do relevant experience, professional experience, related experience. We can do a custom name, or we can also add a new section. We can do honors and awards, additional information, certification. So we look at honors and awards and we click on it. There can also be awards, honors, accomplishments, academic achievements. So we can look at those different things, and always keeping it in reverse chronological order within the different sections is going to be important because you want to show your most relevant experience. So we actually had that question that someone asked, like, hey, I did this job 5 years ago. Is it still relevant today? If it is relevant to the position you are applying to, then yes, it is completely relevant to put that in there. I did some leadership work, leadership and community engagement work when I was away from UCLA. So that was pre-2015, so around 2012 to 13, 14. And depending on the position that I'm applying to, I will put that up on top before I put some of my student affairs experience, especially as I'm applying to some TA positions, because during this work that I was doing, I was really doing leading workshops. I was creating curriculum, which is a lot more relevant to some of the teaching experiences I'm applying to than some of the residential life and student affairs positions that I've kind of worked on. If your resume is relatively light, should you add things such as a small summer jobs, not necessarily related to your field, but just as filler? So this is a great question, Spencer, to come see us at the Career Center so that we can take a look at your resume. And I definitely recommend that everyone have a master resume or CV. This is where you put everything. You put absolutely everything: work experience, volunteer experience, academic awards, research projects, presentations that you've done. Jackie, what else am I missing? Internship experience. I'm missing something.
Class projects.
Class projects, student organizations that you're a part of, volunteering. Yes, and kind of keeping a master resume where you put absolutely everything and anything that kind of, any certifications, any certificates that you earn, any honorable mentions, anything. Keep a master resume, because then, Spencer, depending on the position that you're applying to, you can go through your master resume and just plug and play. And then you take that, as you look at your master resume, you can be like, oh, this is relevant to this position. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put this here. And you kind of don't have to recreate the wheel every time you're applying to a different position. You just kind of pull it from your master resume into the current resume that you want to turn in. And that's where you're able to really see what is relevant and what goes in there. And then coming to see us at the Career Center, bringing in your master resume and bringing in your current draft and being like, hey, this is the job description. Can you help me kind of pull some of the things in my resume that are relevant to this position? But we definitely don't just want to put in filler experience. And it's also about how do we build each bullet point, which I'm actually going to get into right now with bullet points, because how you build a bullet point makes such a big difference on if something can be relevant or not. This is something that they kind of won't tell us as we're going through these different work experience and positions. How can we talk about our experience, and how can we write about our experience in our resumes and cover letters so that it's relevant to the position that we're applying to? So I'm going to use this example here for one of the more recent jobs. This is actually just an example from some of the things that I did. So looking at it, and this is what's really great about VMOC. If you see, it gives you immediate feedback as you're typing away and as you're editing. So here I misspelled managed, and it gives you the option to add it to dictionary or to change it. And it'll catch those, and it'll tell you, hey, this bullet point is missing specifics and the bullet length is a little bit short. This next one, same thing. Let's look at this one. So we're good with action oriented. So we have action verbs. We're good with specifics. You have quantified the impact and their scope. So putting in how many staff. So training 50 Learning Center Lab students, employees, leading quarterly staff trainings, providing regular feedback. But it's saying, hey, you should really think about using another word besides confident, because that's a word that is really used a lot. What's another word that we can use? The bullet length is really good. So this is really gives you the ability to get immediate feedback and to continue working through each bullet point as you're kind of doing it. So when I was working in dining services, I could put, yes, I serve food, or develop tact and diplomacy when dealing with 100 customers a day in a fast-paced environment. So really, how can we help you at the Career Center to really build your resume around the position that you're applying to? And I see a question, do honors and awards really matter in a resume? Or would it only matter if you're applying to a posting related to an academic setting? Again, really looking at what are they looking for? Maybe some of the awards that you've earned are relevant to the position that you're applying to. Maybe some nonprofits, maybe you're looking to work with students, but it really depends. Again, taking the job description, taking your master resume and seeing kind of what is relevant and having everything really set so we can look at the job description together at the Career Center and really be able to help you kind of pull from your master resume some of the things that are really relevant to the position that you're applying to. And again, that's a really hard question to answer, but it always depends. But coming in to see us at the Career Center during drop-in hours is going to be so helpful, because we'll be able to look at the job description and tailor your resume and your cover letter to to that position and thinking of graduate, either a job in an academic setting, research, maybe student organizations, or just really depending on the type of work, academic counseling or academic advising or counseling, it may be relevant. And we will be able to look at the job description again and kind of be able to work through that. Okay. Any questions so far? I am at 4:30 and I want to make sure I pass it on to Jackie, who's going to be talking about cover letters. Is there anything that I missed, Jackie?
I think you covered a lot of it, but if anybody still has questions about resumes, just make sure to add them in the chat and we'll answer them.
Yeah, and just really quick, should we stick to a single sentence to describe each experience we do in a resume? So we definitely recommend that if you want to, if definitely keeping it to less so of either one sentence or not, but thinking through, if I start a new line, I want to use the entire 2 lines. So if I'm going to use one single line, one single bullet point line, then I want to stick to that one line. I don't want 1 or 2 words hanging on to the next line. I want to be able to use that entire space, or either use the 1 line or use the 2 lines. There may be some special circumstances depending on some technical resumes, which is really important to have those technical skills. But again, come see us at the Career Center, and I will continue saying this, come see us at the Career Center during drop-in hours, and we will make sure that we're kind of looking at the resumes, looking at your resume, looking at the job description, and we're able to kind of build your resume as best as we can around the job that you're applying to. And one last thing that I will say, and this kind of goes along with cover letters and jobs resumes as well, I always like to create kind of a priority list or kind of a wish list of the jobs that I'm applying to. So let's say I'm applying to 10 different jobs or 12 different jobs. There's possibly 3 jobs that I really want, and I know I'm qualified for. And then there's like 3 or 4 jobs, and I'm like, okay, I can see myself doing that. I'm not too excited about it, but hey, I got to apply to these different jobs to make sure that I land these interviews, that I continue getting that experience, and that I get a job or a research or internship experience. And then there's like 3 or 4 jobs that I'm like, you know what? These are kind of like, maybe it's a stretch. Maybe it's something that I'm not too excited about. But again, I need to continue putting these applications in because I'm graduating in the spring and hey, I need a job. So I would say definitely that first tier, you definitely want to put the most time and effort into your resume and cover letter for those. The second tier, relatively want to go ahead and make sure that you still tailor your resume and cover letter, but you may not spend as much time as you did with the first tier. And that third tier is being like, okay, I'm going to continue putting these applications in. I may change a couple of things here and there, making sure that the cover letter, I changed the keywords and I did my research on the company. But I want to put in as many applications as possible. And I don't want to work on 12 applications for 3 hours each. I got school assignments, I got family, I have work, I have my internship, I have all these other responsibilities. So making a priority list really helps so that you can be like, hey, I'm going to dedicate this much time to this. I'm going to dedicate a little bit less time to this. And I'm going to dedicate less time to this set of applications. That reminds me, should we be careful not to seem as over underqualified for a position? Definitely, your resume, your cover letter are where you brag about yourself. Please, please, please. This is not a place to be humble. I always tell students this, you are amazing, especially transfer students. Transfer students are amazing, and you always want to make sure that you do not come off as humble in your resume and your cover letter. Imagine that these 2 documents are answering the question, and the question is, why should we hire you? Why should we hire Omar? Why should we hire Jackie? Why should we hire Sarah? Why should we hire Christy? And you want to make sure that you are not being humble and that you are not understating how awesome you are and how you are qualified for this position. And again, this goes back to a priority of these are the jobs I really want. These are the jobs that I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm going to apply to these kind of jobs that I know I may be overqualified for, but hey, I need to make sure that I have the wide range of opportunities so that I can choose from in the future where I decide to go. But no, your resume and your cover letter are not the places where you go to be humble about yourself. It's the place where you really go and shine and show how amazing you are. Okay, Jackie, and with that, I will stop talking and hand it over to you.
Thank you, Omar.
Yes, no, Emily, please keep asking questions.
Thank you, Omar. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully mine works. Oh, this is weird. I think I'm having the same problem as you, Omar. I can't share my desktop. I can only share a certain
Yeah,
document.
it might be a Facebook Live thing, but I think we just share the example that you worked on. That would be perfect.
Yeah. I'll share one at a time. Oh, actually, can you see everything, or what can you see?
I am looking at the career guide, the cover letter template.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is the cover letter template on the career guide. So in our career guide, I know we weren't able to show it earlier, but this is our career guide. It's on the UCLA Career Center website. And on chapter 6, it goes over resumes and cover letters. So it's super helpful. So it gives you information on how to build a powerful resume, what content you should have on your resume, how to build your bullet point. If you have trouble with action verbs like I do, there's a whole 2 pages of action verbs that you can choose from. And I really like this. And then if you have trouble with your resume template, there's a lot of different types of resumes on here. There's also a transfer student resume on here, and you can kind of copy what you like and take bits and pieces from different resumes and put them into your resume to see how you like it. But I will start off with the cover letter, which is right here at the very end of the chapter. So this is the cover letter template. And just to give you an overview of what a cover letter is, it's a document that you send in with your resume. And in your cover letter, you really want to state your skills, your interests, and your experiences for the position. And the difference between a resume and a cover letter is that in a cover letter, you're pretty much connecting the dots for the employer. So every sentence that you put in the cover letter should be somehow related to the job. So put yourself in the shoes of the hiring manager or the internship coordinator and kind of give them the information that you think will be important for you to land that job or that internship. So that's kind of how I like to explain a cover letter. You're kind of just connecting the dots for them. And I'll go over just like the basics of what a cover letter should have. So first, your cover letter should have a heading. And in your heading, you want to make sure that it looks exactly how it does on your resume. So there's some continuity, and also it makes it look like you have your own stationery. If you have the same contact information and name on your resume, that's on your cover letter. Next, you want to make sure that you add the date and the address on there. So that's really helpful. And if you have the name of the person, I would suggest putting their name on there. But if you don't have the name of the person, then you can also address it to dear internship coordinator or dear selection committee. Or if the job description says that you'll be reporting to the director of communications, you can put director of communications on there. And then aside from that,
Hi, Jackie. We have another question in the chat. What if the job or internship description doesn't specifically request or require a cover letter?
I would if you really want the job, I would still put a cover letter, submit a cover letter with your resume, because it just shows that you took like that step to send in that cover letter and connect those pieces for the employer. So it kind of just gives you a little bit of an edge as opposed to other applicants who maybe didn't submit a cover letter. So I would,
awesome.
I would still submit it.
Yeah, and on a similar note, we also got, are cover letters more important than resumes? Are they at the same equivalence? Should I include it even if they don't ask? Okay, so like the first question mainly, are cover letters more important than resumes?
I would say cover letters are as important as a resume, because in your resume, you're putting all of your experience, but in the cover letter, you're really just connecting the dots for the employer. So I would say they're equal. maybe the resume a little bit more, just because I know that's asked for more. Usually what I find that I've heard before is that employers will look at resumes first and see if they like what they see, then they will read the cover letter. But if not, they won't read the cover letter. That's what I've heard. Omar, if you've heard something else, let me know. But that's kind of what I've gotten out of it. And then there's another question. For internship applications, how much in the cover letter should you talk about your intended career path? Probably just like a sentence. In your cover letter, you want to state your passions and your interest, but I would keep it to a minimum. You really want to explain how your experiences will help them. I feel like that's most important. So I would say to just keep it to a minimum. Maybe keep it to like one sentence. And then once you go to your interview, then you can explain a little bit further if they ask. Okay, and I'm just gonna keep going here. And we did get a question earlier on how long should a cover letter be? I would say a cover letter should be no more than 1 page long. If you find that your cover letter is more than a page long, I would play around with the format. Maybe make it like 0.5 margins, play around with the font, play around with the size, or if not, start cutting off things that aren't relevant to the job or the internship. But with that being said, I am going to stop sharing and I'm going to share the example cover letter. Okay. Can you see my example cover letter? Yeah, we're good. Okay. So this is the example cover letter that I have here. And another tip that I like to give with cover letters is if you are applying to a lot of different jobs and you notice that some of the jobs have a similar job description, like let's say you're applying to many jobs in marketing, then you can have a cover letter that's more focused on marketing. If you're applying to more like student assistant positions at UCLA, you can have more of a student assistant cover letter that explains a little bit more about your administrative work or communication skills. So you can have kind of like templates for your cover letter. For example, for me right now, I'm a graduate student. I'm graduating in June and I'm currently applying to jobs. So I've noticed that some of the job descriptions are kind of similar. So for example, for admissions officer or for academic advisor, they have similar job descriptions. So I have one cover letter that's more geared towards admission and then another cover letter that's more geared towards like an academic advisor. So that's really helpful when I'm looking for jobs. And it makes it less of a stressful process because I can just open that cover letter, make some tweaks, and then send it. So it makes it a lot easier for me. But for now, I'm going to just go off of the introduction, the body paragraphs, and the conclusion of the cover letter. So as you can see, this is a cover letter that is geared towards a marketing content internship. And I have the job description listed right here, just as an example that we will work off of when looking at the cover letter. So in the introduction, the very first paragraph, you want to make sure that you are identifying what position that you are applying for. So this person is applying for a marketing content internship posted on the LA Regional Bank website. And you also want to make sure that you are introducing yourself and then talking about your experiences and your interest in the job. So in this paragraph, in the second sentence, it says, I am currently a third-year student at UCLA, majoring in communications with a minor in public affairs. And then looking at the job description, we see right here under qualifications, it says pursuing a degree in marketing, communications, new media, or English. So because the student is pursuing a degree in communications, we want to make sure that she puts that on her cover letter. And that goes for everything that's listed on the job description. If you see anything on the job description that fits with your experiences, you want to make sure that you put that on your cover letter. So for this student specifically, if they've had experience working with nonprofits, if they have good communication skills, if they've worked with Adobe or Google Apps or WordPress, or if they're fluent in Spanish, we want to make sure that she puts that on her cover letter. And you'll kind of see that's kind of connecting the dots for the employer. But we'll keep going. So in the last sentence, the student says, my experience in marketing and communications and passion for working in LA nonprofits have given me the essential skills to excel as a member of your team. So again, she's connecting the dots. She's saying she has experience in marketing and communications, and she has experience working with nonprofits. And in your introduction, those are kind of the main things that you want to do. State what you are applying to, introduce yourself briefly, and state the qualities or the experiences or the interests that are related to the job. And then in the body paragraphs, this is where you kind of want to talk about more about your experiences that are relevant to the job description. And you can see I underlined a lot of these, and that's because all of these are relevant to the job description in some way. So for example, in this first sentence, the student states that they worked at the LA County of Public Health, and that she grew her skills in communicating effectively with the public by utilizing her skills in content creation. And in the job description, it talks about communication and content creation. So she wants to make sure that she puts that in there. And then she goes on by saying, as a marketing intern, I created weekly content using Adobe Photoshop, InDesign, and Illustrator. And again, the job description states that they want somebody that is familiar with Photoshop, InDesign, and Illustrator. So since this student has these experiences, she wants to make sure that she puts that on her cover letter. So that's kind of what I mean by connecting the dots. You want to look at the job description, see what experiences you have, and kind of copy and paste that onto your cover letter. And then again, I'll read off this last sentence. Additionally, I translated infographics in Spanish and posted them to the website, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook accounts to make more information more accessible to our Spanish-speaking communities. And again, same thing. She's connecting the dots. She's saying she's fluent in Spanish. And she's not just saying she's fluent in Spanish, but she's showing how she used her Spanish skills. So she translated infographics into Spanish. And then she posted them on their website on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook accounts. And then again, you'll see in this job description, it says that they want somebody with Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook experience. So that's kind of what I mean by connecting the dots. You want to make sure that everything is kind of relevant to the job description. And then I'll skip this paragraph here just for time's sake, but I will go on to the very last, the concluding paragraph. And in the concluding paragraph, you want to make sure that you reemphasize your interest, you politely thank the employer for their time, and you request an interview. So here the student states, I hope to bring my skills in partnership development and social media campaigns to the LA Regional Food Bank, along with my passion for working alongside underserved communities. So you see I highlighted social media, and then I also highlighted passion for working alongside underserved communities. And even though it doesn't say this directly on the job description, this is where researching the company comes in. So sometimes you can research the company, look up their mission, and see what they're about, and kind of put that in your cover letter in some way. So if you and that company have a certain passion or a certain mission that you both are really passionate about, I would make sure to also put that in your cover letter, to not just show like this isn't just a job for you, but you're actually interested in this position and in this type of work. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you thank the employer for their time, for their consideration, and that you look forward to hearing from them. And lastly, you want to sign off your name. I like using respectfully. You can also use sincerely. Put your electronic signature and then put your name. And that's kind of just the a rundown of how a cover letter should look. A cover letter is it's difficult, but after you write a few of them and you have some sample cover letters that you can choose from, when you're looking for jobs, it becomes a lot easier because you can just choose what cover letter is best fits that job description. So it really helps. And if, again, just like Omar said, if any of you are having trouble with your cover letter, please visit us at drop-ins. Again, you don't need to have an appointment for this. They're just 15-minute appointments. Sometimes it's kind of slow, so sometimes we can spend like 20 minutes with you. So that's really nice. And again, they are on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. But that kind of wraps up cover letters and resumes. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, we have 3 questions, Jackie, and thank you so much for doing that awesome overview of cover letters. I definitely have learned so much from that alone. But yeah, our first question we have is, do cover letters also go through the applicant tracking system?
I believe they do. I think I don't want to say, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe they also go through the applicant tracking system. So for those of you who don't know what the applicant tracking system is, a lot of times big companies like Fortune 500 companies don't have time to go over every resume. So for example, a job may have maybe 100 applicants. So what the applicant tracking system does is they will maybe narrow it down to maybe 20 applicants and then send those 20 applicants to the hiring manager. And the way it does that, it looks for resumes and cover letters that are most similar to the job description. So sometimes that's why I say sometimes you have to copy and paste what's on the job description onto your resume and cover letter because of the applicant tracking system.
Thanks, Jackie. The next question is the one-page resume a myth? If not, do you have any tips on how to keep your resume on one page while still highlighting yourself?
So I would say for undergrads, I would recommend you have a one-page resume. Like Omar said, you can have a master resume. I have a master resume, and you can put all of your experiences on there. And that could be 2 or 3 pages or however number of pages. But once you apply for that job, you want to make sure that you try to fit it into one page and put the most relevant experience for that job into that one page. And then again, you can also play around with the formatting, like making it like a 0.5, 0.5 margins, playing around with the font and the size.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jackie. The next question we have is, do you have to send an email thanking them for the interview? Is it similar to like the cover letter where you restate what your cover letter says and or expand on whatever was said in the interview?
Yes, so I would say always send a thank you letter after an interview. And in that cover letter, you want to make sure that you thank them for their time and also state maybe like a small tiny paragraph or maybe like a few sentences of what you talked about in your interview or what makes you stand out as an applicant.
Thank you. The next question we have is, do people not hire people from different states?
It really depends on the job. It depends on the job because if, let's say I live here in California and I'm applying to somewhere in New Jersey, the employer may think, hey, this person is applying to California. If we give her an interview, if we give her the job, is she really going to come here? Or will we have to pay for a relocation fee? So yes, there can be some biases when applying for an out-of-state job.
Yeah, and then really, that's a really great opportunity for your cover letter. Kind of if you're applying, like if I and Sarah can probably talk a little bit better to this. I'm from California, born and raised in California. But being able to talk about it in your cover letter, like, hey, like I'm excited about moving to California and kind of to relocating and like working with this company is, or organization is kind of my next step, and really making that connection. Remember, the important thing about a cover letter is that you're answering the question. You don't want them to have the question. Like if you're applying to a position in New York, answer the question like, hey, why is this person applying to a position in New York? And you really want to answer that question and take the time to see like, hey, this organization is my dream to work with this, and I'm willing to relocate to anywhere in the world, and I'm applying to this position. And then connecting it back to your experience and how it is relevant to your next steps. And that's the great thing about a cover letter, is that you're able to really answer those questions. Where a resume really quantifies your experience, a cover letter gives you the opportunity to make the connection between what you've done, what you've learned, and what your next step is, and why this organization, position, or company is that next step for you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Omar. Those are such great points. And the next question we have is, if our major is outside the preferred fields of the study listed, should we spend time explaining or justifying it, or move on to relevant experiences?
Relevant experiences and making the connections back to the position. And remember, major does not equal career. Major does not equal career. Major does not equal career. I can never stop saying that. Taking opportunities as a UCLA student to be a part of internships, research, student organizations, professional organizations, conferences that are relevant to the field that you want to get into is what is more important than your major. And then also, if you happen to be, I'm just gonna say, a math major, and you took a sociology course, and you realize that sociology is really what you're passionate about, and you started working in different positions in sociology or X, Y, or Z, you're able to make those connections in your cover letter, like, hey, this is how I arrived here. And this is maybe how I make the connection between math and sociology. And the cover letter is a great experience. It's a great opportunity to be able to do that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Your major, it does not equate to your career. And on that note, we have another question that asked, if I don't have any experience for the internship, say social media marketing, and my major is not related to the position, what can I use as experience for my resume or cover letter?
I'll take that one. So for a job description, you won't have all the skills or all the experiences that they want on the job description. Most of the time you won't, at least I won't. So you want to highlight what you do have, what skills you do have that the employer is looking for. Also, if you want to say, if you want to go into social media marketing and you don't have any experiences, as a UCLA student, I would suggest maybe joining a club and seeing if you can help out with their social media. So take advantage of the clubs or the student organizations that you have at UCLA and see if you can get experience in that way.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There are so many student orgs on UCLA that need help in social media marketing. So if that's something you're into, I highly recommend just reaching out and see like, hey, I like made this design. I would love to like collaborate with you for, maybe your next post and see what we can do together. But yeah, we also have another question from Emily, and she asked, due to quarantine, shouldn't we have a decent chance at applying to a remote out-of-state job, or is the risk of moving still there? How can we take that to account in the cover letter?
Yes.
Emily, you have the best questions
Yeah.
ever.
I would say on Handshake, there is a lot of remote positions available. Just keep in mind that if the position is remote, there is a chance that we will go back to being in person. So if the job is in Florida and it's remote now, maybe in the summer or maybe in the fall, it may go back to being in person. So keep that in mind when you're applying to remote positions.
Yeah, and you always have the opportunity to call, to email, and really paying attention to the job description and seeing like, hey, this is a 100% remote. Sometimes it'll say up until this date, up into the future, or or taking time to research as well. So if it's a position in education, paying attention to what the university, how it's shifting over to either in person or continuing to stay online. But one thing I did want to backtrack a little bit about the question about my related experience. Also taking advantage of volunteer experiences. So if you want to get into marketing and maybe that hasn't been your focus and kind of your experience, starting to do some volunteer experience for different organizations, student organizations, joining clubs, but then also seeing what are some of the skills, again, like thinking through just Photoshop, Adobe Creative Cloud in general, GIMP, and all these other different softwares and even hardwares that are being used in the field, and learning how to use those, and even like creating your own creating a social media account that's specific for you to really be able to show off the work that you're doing and kind of be able to grow through those steps. Those are things that you can do that'll kind of show that shift. And then your cover letter talking about, hey, this is how I'm shifting to this, and this is even how my major and how I think through how I've ended up in this new career path that I find myself in. And I just saw one page resume, a myth. Did we answer that one?
Yes, we did a bit earlier.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So just really quick again, remember a recruiter company may only look at it for 6 to 10 seconds. So you want to make sure you maximize your space, especially for entry-level positions. As you get into more managerial positions, supervisory positions, upper management, you're able to use more space, and they're really they take more time with the job search process. So you'll have more space to really be able to talk about your skills, but leveraging LinkedIn and using these different things. But you definitely want to make sure that at least for the first week, 6 to 10 seconds, how can we maximize that space? Okay,
Yeah.
it is 5 p.m. Oh, Christy, were you saying something? I want
Yeah,
to
I
make
just wanted
sure that.
okay.
No, I just want to make sure it's 5 p.m. But go ahead, please, Christy.
Yeah, of course. I just wanted to add really quick that definitely thank you letters leave such a positive impression on whoever interviewed you. And even if, like, let's say HR and you don't get the position, HR will definitely keep your resume on hand and consider you for future positions if you continue to follow up and continue building that relationship. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for asking such great questions. I think I can speak for all the speakers when I say that we had such a great time within this 1 hour and talking more about what resources the Career Center has, as well as talking more about VMOC. So thank you so much for sharing with us, Jackie and Omar. I think we can all agree that you helped us take our application materials to the next level. We really appreciate your time, and thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. This video will stay on Facebook if you want to revisit it or share it with a friend. And I hope y'all have a great rest of your week.